Hello, this is my synopsis of Neil Lebovits' seminar with the Big Biller Summit 2010. Now, Neil is the ex-chief executive of Adecco, one of the, if not the largest recruitment agency in the world. But more recently he's gone off and developed his own consulting business, and he specialises in LinkedIn development. And he puts himself out there as a bit of a guru. Now, I have to say, I've heard of a lot of so-called gurus, but nobody that I've actually exposed myself to so far has actually covered as much information in as much detail. So I'm trying to give you the bullet points. Now, firstly, Neil talks about the fact that we need to focus on our profile. Most people don't have a very good profile, and most people don't have enough connections. So he's going to be talking a lot about that. I suggest you listen to the whole article again and maybe read the transcript, but this is the bullet points. Most people have about 60 connections. Now, he says the ambition is to get up to at least 500. He started with 60, and with 18 months he managed to get up to 3,000. So with most people out there kind of not putting a lot of effort and getting about 60 connections, it's not difficult for us to get a massive advantage over everybody else. Now, first thing is our profile. Most people don't do much work on their profile at all. He says it must look crisp. It needs to look like a brochure would, or for example our company website. And he says take the sizzle words, the phrases that make people think, oh yes, that's what they do. Put them into your profile. Anything that you consider has got value, such as your successes, as he calls it, your value proposition, whether it's been towards a client or a candidate, is worth putting in there. And he says you've got to make sure that you avoid what a lot of people do, which is that they don't make it stand out. He says why not put a picture? Lots of people avoid putting a picture in. Unless you're really ugly like me, just go for it. It's not going to do you any harm at all. And he says try and get quite a zoomed in one, not one where you're part of a big crowd or maybe in a like a landscape or something. Get a close-up, I think is the phrase. In terms of your job title or your name, don't put your qualifications. So if you've got a degree, don't put Fred Bloggs, BSc or MSc, just put Fred Bloggs. So exclude qualifications. Now it's a bit of a plug here, but he says he's got a lot of free training about LinkedIn. That's worth a look at. It's called www.thedynamicsale.com. I've had a look at it. It's pretty good. There's some good downloadable free content. Obviously he's hoping for an upgrade, develop a relationship. That's fine. Have a look at it. Now, he said that on LinkedIn a lot of people are quite dry. There aren't many characters, so it's easy for us to stand out as a bit of a personality. So you can go not crackers, don't over exaggerate things, but put a bit of style in, put a bit of pizzazz, get your personality across. That's how people, clients and candidates will buy from you, because you stand out. Another thing is LION, L-I-O-N. Now that stands for LinkedIn Open Networker. It shouldn't be in your email address, but it should be in brackets after your name, and that lets people know that you are basically available to connections, and that whoever approaches you, you will open with welcome arms and you'll actually accept them to your network. And that's what you're looking for. It may not be their connection, but it may be people that they know. So the more connections you've got, the more people through second and third contact you'll be able to develop to. So anybody that invites you to join, just go for it. Also, there's an opportunity for us to put in details of our websites, and again that's in the profile. You need to edit your profile details, so you'll be putting in the recruitment business, ultrajobs.com, probably put in also the recruitmentguide.com, and probably also pantherofficesupplies.com as well. Now, what he says is make sure that I've lost my track here. Put in candidate resource page and client resources. I've lost my way, sorry guys. Let's move on. In summary, he talks about putting in a sales pitch, your brochure, developing an advert on the LinkedIn page that relates to you, and he says also that you need to consider that LinkedIn's a bit like Google. there are key phrases, there are opportunities for you to write in what you do. So if you want to put in, let's say, sales recruiter, sales recruitment consultant, sales recruitment specialist, put those key phrases in, and that is how people will actually find you. And as I say, this whole kind of LinkedIn approach is very much like Google, based upon keywords. And if you're not sure, he's just using a thesaurus for variations, but I think for what we do, it's quite easy. Now, he talks about putting courses in education. If you've done anything that you think is relevant to your profession here as a recruiter, or maybe other areas, maybe involved in martial arts, or maybe the arts, or some kind of political group, or you're involved in sports or social activity, if you're involved in a group, put that in as well, because people will link to you via that. Remember, you're trying to get across your personality and building your network. So he says if you've been on the Neil Lebovits boot camp for LinkedIn, put that in as well, because then it'll link you with people searching Neil Lebovits. So remember, that's how we do it. It's how we might be linked. It might be worth actually putting a few client names in, or roles as well, because then we can be linked back to that. Now, rock bottom number of connections, he says go for, and he means minimum 500. That's not the target, that is the absolute minimum. And most people, he says, most people on very low levels of LinkedIn, and I've looked on LinkedIn for people that I thought would be all over this, and they've only got less than a dozen LinkedIn connections. So if we can get to the front, we can build the connections much faster. So he says, really, to cut to the chase, you need to get between 1,500 and 3,000. Less than 500, you're going to get frustrated, because all you're going to be doing is spending time building up the connections, not actually utilising them. So remember, this article is really about getting the connections, the numbers up. Obviously, other articles he's got about how you actually utilise LinkedIn more effectively. Now, he says that the profile needs to be spot on, maximise network connections as soon as possible, and he reckons you could probably do it in less than a year, because if you can speak to people every day, have conversations with them, he reckons keep LinkedIn open. I always advocate turning off email, but LinkedIn, keep it open. Every time you email, every time you have a conversation, actually just go into LinkedIn and add them to your network. And he reckons that you should be able to ramp out pretty quickly. He reckons 50 a week is quite simple, if not more. In terms of outbound invitations, you've only got a number to play with. So really, instead of going for people that are outside your network, try to go for people that are inside, people that you know that are going to accept you, because you've only got a certain number of these outbound invitations. Now, if you're going to use an outbound invitation, he suggests that you can create a compelling reason. So when you write to them, he suggests maybe do something on Word and copy and paste it in, so that you're not just using the standard LinkedIn invitation. I suggest you actually read the transcript, because there's a lot of stuff now. I'm trying to skim over it. Also, that you may be blocked by people who you don't know, and they, after you've had 3 people that you've applied to that you don't know, they don't know you, they could put you down as a spammer, and as a result your LinkedIn account can actually be suspended. LinkedIn are very aggressive with this. They're very keen to make sure that people don't use it as just a spam way of developing networks. Nobody wants that. It's not like email, so they're policing it very aggressively. He then does a lot of work on the search, how to search for people, either in your network, on variations of line, maybe company details. And I suggest again that you really dig into this. Read the transcript, listen to him again. I'm struggling a bit because there's so much here, so much content. Now, he says you should be joining groups. You can join up to 50 groups. Now, these might be industry specific, they might be recruitment specific, they might be something to do with a social activity or sports you're involved in that you'd like to develop relationships with those people. let's say you're involved in the rugby association, you join the rugby association group, and yet in there you've got somebody that you'd like to talk with, maybe a second or a third level connection, that you think, right, he's somebody I reckon I could do business with. Well, the fact you're part of a group opens up the opportunity. You can communicate, therefore, because you're in the same group, via LinkedIn. And what he suggests is that actually that we don't just rely upon LinkedIn. Once you've got the ball rolling with LinkedIn, actually pick up the telephone. And that's interesting because a lot of people are commentating saying that social media is taking away a lot of the core skills that relate to developing relationships, i.e. picking up the telephone, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. And what Neil Lebovits suggests very strongly is that we use LinkedIn as a way of developing the relationship, getting it moving, and then we pick up the phone and we make an actual physical connection. So your call would be to the receptionist, hi, I've been speaking to Fred on LinkedIn, he's expecting my call, can you put me through? And I think it's a really good tip there. So do think about the groups, and apparently once you're part of a group you can actually email people once you've been accepted. Now that might not yet be a selling situation, it might just be an awareness development opportunity, but nonetheless it's a really good way of getting your message out to people that you probably wouldn't actually have a daily dialogue with, either nationally or internationally. He talks about the search in a lot of detail, in fact more detail than I thought he would do. And you can search people by geography, you can search people by company, you can search people by job title or keywords or key phrases, and then you can actually save those searches. And if somebody actually comes up with that information, with those key phrases or the details, if you wanted to find somebody that joined XYZ company, as soon as somebody new joins that firm, ka-chung, if they're on LinkedIn, it'll be sent to your inbox, so you'll know there's a new person within that organisation. I think that's incredibly powerful. And you can save up to 5 searches. Apparently for a bigger fee you can save more searches, but it's not a bad way to start. You can also use Google, and there's a bit here about going into Google and typing in linkedin.com and putting in a Boolean search, and that's whereupon you put in specific keywords or phrases and it will search for people via LinkedIn, via Google. Another way of looking at it, but again it uses Google to sort of drive down into LinkedIn. I thought it was very, very powerful. He offers a $49 seminar, which I'll probably go for, and I have to say I know I've struggled a little bit in the middle of it because there's so much here, and what we've got here, we've got nearly 20 pages of transcript, and I really do think it's worth half an hour of your time, cup of coffee and a notebook, and using a highlighter and going through it in detail and finding out how it can have an impact with you. I've started with it. I've already managed to double the number of my connections within a 36-hour period. It just takes a bit of time, a bit of patience, and just start working with it, get used to it, start connecting, and I've been very pleasantly surprised, and we picked up some business from it as well. A couple of vacancies over in Stanmore, so it works. Anyway, good luck with that.